I don't know what that sounds like. I'm about to cry. I'm not. I'm happy.
Are you about to cry? You look like you're about to cry.
Actually, if you kind of act like you're going to cry, you kind of do start to cry.
You gonna cry,
bro?
Oh, dude, are you gonna cry right now? Are you gonna cry right now?
No.
Oh my god, that's embarrassing.
A guy taught me how to cry, like an actor.
Punching me in the face so many times. Just water leaked out. And he was like, no, I'll give you something to cry about.
That's right. That's what actors generally do. There's just like someone comes up and just punches him.
This guy shows up and open the door. I'm here to teach you how to cry. You're like, oh man. Well, that is maybe the scariest introduction possible.
So this guy was telling me how to cry theatrically, and he was like, the way you have to cry is you have to try to stop yourself from crying while pushing to cry. Because that's the way people cry. They don't just
So you mean crying
they
is
go
like
I just don't want to cry, but I'm crying anyways. And then he's like, that's how you look good.
like an acting way to cry.
Yeah, like if you're on screen or
So
like
you have
on
to
stage or
think
whatever.
you're trying to like think of something to make you cry and then stop.
Right. You have to it's like a push-pull at the same time. Then you look really like you're crying.
Welcome everybody. Hi,
welcome.
this is Solutions from the Multiverse. I'm Scott Moppin.
I'm Adam Browse.
And we come here every week with a new podcast for your ears.
Every week we have a new solution.
What do we got today?
Today's
Adam?
solution is just, I've been really thinking about it a long time, like at least 2 weeks.
Wait, is that good or bad?
Very intensely.
Does a long cooking time make a solution better or worse?
Oh, better.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah. It's like
Why would I suggest
it's like
that?
a fine wine, just like sitting in its cask.
You like to cook a fine wine before you drink it.
Like to boil it up, put it on the back burner. Hot wine.
Actually, hot wine isn't.
Well, glue wine, yeah. If you do like a spiced wine, mulled. Okay. They call it mulled. We don't call anything else mulled. Do you mull anything? Well, you mull an idea.
No,
That's what I'm doing. I'm mulling the wine. I'm mulling the idea, the solution. Yeah. Okay. So this is a little bit of a complex one because, we require all solutions to be new, like either completely out of the mainstream or entirely new.
It's a requirement. It's a hard requirement.
That is a hard requirement because what are we going to do? Come in here and be like, oh, we should have, you should recycle. It's like everyone, people know all that already. We need new solutions.
All right. I'll scratch that one off my list.
No, recycle, Scott. Come on. Oh, you were going to come and do recycling?
That was my big idea for the next episode.
Okay, so this is a new idea, but the solution is not new, but the why is extremely new. Okay, so the solution is just, people have probably heard of this already, which is universal maternity, paternity paid leave for everyone.
Yes, I have heard of
this. Yes. And maybe you get like, maybe you get like 6 months of it per parent, and it's use it or lose it. So the man and the woman both need to either take time off or not. But it's not like all the woman who gets the time off and the man doesn't, which then creates these imbalances in women's pay and careers, and it's not fair. So that would be the suggestion.
What you're saying is like the way it is now when we have in America anyway, when you have a kid, the parental leave is zero.
Yeah.
The maternal leave is zero, but it's more accepted, but like frowned on. It's kind of like you better get that done as soon as you can or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're saying something
in other countries, they do like 6 months maternity leave, but they don't do paternity leave, which then makes it so that even though that's great because the mother gets to be home with baby, it's not great because it sets this default. Then the market responds by saying, oh, well, we're not going to pay mothers as much. We're not going to hire as many mothers because they're going to take 6 months off and be paid.
Right.
But,
it puts a careir cost on having a child for women, but not for men.
And this is an interesting thing people can look up if they want. The wage pay gap that people talk about, like 76 cents on the dollar. Like women get paid 76 on the dollar to men for the same job.
Right.
Turns out that that's not actually true. Not in the sense that it's basically women get paid. Women with no children get paid roughly the same as men, like 98%, like within spitting distance of men. But mothers get paid only 58 cents on per dollar of for the same job as men and women who don't have children.
So if you split it not along the lines of men and women, but along the lines
Moms
of
and not moms.
moms versus not moms,
Yeah.
then it even
Yeah.
gets worse, the disparity.
Well, that is the disparity.
Yeah.
There is no disparity between
Okay,
women with no
gotcha.
children, because basically
that's what's accounting
capitalism's
for.
like, if you don't have children and you can sacrifice your whole life to capitalism, we'll pay
Right.
you more, and if you can't, then we'll pay you a lot, like half as much. And so if you give maternal and maternity parental leave, and it's use it or lose it, so the man can't like transfer it to the woman. He either has to use it or it's gone. Then both the man and the woman are going to be like, we both are taking 6 months off, or she'll take 6 months and he'll take 6 months.
Right.
And now the career penalty is fair.
The hit is distributed evenly across both parents.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that's kind of like, everyone's heard this already. This isn't a new idea. Maybe this kind of
I haven't heard it positioned
side.
like
Yeah,
that.
you have to do that. If you just give maternity leave, you preserve, you increase the equity. You improve child outcomes, but and parental outcomes, but you still give a hit to the mother folk. This is something the Union of Moms could fight for.
Yeah.
And so, okay, but this isn't the solution. This is just sort of what everyone knows already.
You said it was a solution.
Well, this is the solution, but the why is what makes it new.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Hit me with a why.
okay. Are you familiar with,
No.
do you think, okay, so have you heard that there's a mental health crisis in the United States?
I have heard that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about this.
A lot of times I hear about it when people are trying to deflect from the gun violence crisis.
Oh, God.
But that's the separate thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, well, I'll just say right off the bat, people who commit mass shootings
Yeah.
are not crazy. There's a letter from the American
Okay.
Academy of Psychiatrists. No, I can link to it in the show notes.
Okay.
The American Academy of Psychiatrists have written a joint letter saying people who do mass shootings, the vast majority,
But
like,
you're
like
not
95%
you're not here
of them
being like, these
are
guys
not
have some
psychotic.
good ideas.
No, that's the thing. But it's important. No, but it's no, exactly. They're not. They're in the common parlance. See,
Hear them out. Hear these guys
half
out.
the
What are they-
audience, 2/3 of the audience just said this guy's crazy. Of course they're crazy. They have to be crazy. They went and killed people.
Right.
The point is, psychiatrists are saying they're not mentally ill. That's important,
Okay.
Because then if you really want to end what's going on, you have to know what's going on.
Okay.
And if experts are saying they're not crazy, and then Congress people who are not psychiatrists are saying they're crazy, the Congress people are wrong and the psychiatrists are right. And so you have to wind back. So what are they? Well, they're people with really bad ideas, really, really bad, destructive, violent ideas.
Right.
But they're not mentally ill. They're not schizophrenic. They're not manic depressive. They're not, right? They don't have a mental illness.
How are we going to link this back to paternity leave?
Well, I just wanted to share that because I think it's important to get that out there, because all the even good news, like I watch good news, like Breaking Points. I'll throw it. I love Breaking.
Oh, you were
Points.
that was just a separate thing. You were just
That was
like,
just a separate.
those
thing.
people are not crazy. All
Yeah,
right,
that's
back
just
to
a
that.
separate
Back to
thing.
our
That
main
was a
feature.
side. Yeah, that was a sidetrack. They're not crazy.
You want to
They
stick
are,
up for the sanity of those people.
They are human beings are just hyper violent creatures. If you put them the wrong ideas in their head, and they'll go and murder a bunch of people. That's just human nature. It's not crazy, which is terrifying, but it's true. And so you have to, so then it gets back to gun control. Again, if we remove their crazy narrative, it's only gun control. That's the only thing you can go back to.
Yeah.
Or limiting political extremism and other sort of extremism things, Anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. They're not crazy.
Okay.
It's the American Academy of Psychiatrists have definitively said, and it makes sense. My mom says this all the time. She's a psychiatrist, and she just walks
around the house going, "Those mass
all the
shooters are
time.
not crazy."
Well, she's very concerned.
They are very safe.
Yeah, she's very concerned with gun violence and gun control. And she's a psychiatrist, and she has been for 40 years. She's a psychiatrist, and she says every time when the news is saying, "Oh, there's a mass shooting," she says, and they say, "Oh,
Good
mental
ideas."
illness."
Oh,
she
no.
says they're not mentally ill. That's a lie. The news is just lying because they're not mentally ill. They have very bad ideas, but they're not mentally ill. Anyways, okay, so mental health crisis. So you've heard there's a mental health crisis.
I've heard this.
Okay, there is. Let's add some color to this so people get a finer sense of it. So mental health crisis. It is not a mental health crisis of major mental health. So there's no increase in America of schizophrenia, which is like the worst mental illness you can get. There's no increase in like major depression, like major depression. There's no increase in like totally debilitating, delusional psychosis, inability to, I don't know, all the like really major that would like really destroy your life mental illness.
Okay.
That's not higher. It's only minor mental illness.
Oh.
So complications with PTSD. You can have major PTSD, but again, that's not what's on the rise.
That
Just
thing where you can't
PTSD.
look at dots that are too close together because it freaks you out.
Yeah. What is that
one?
called?
Tryptophobia.
Tryptophobia. Yeah, that's on the rise. And then anxiety, depression. I mean, these are things people are suffering with them. I'm not trying to minimize the suffering, but these things will not. You don't run around with your, naked in the street with your pants over your head. You just feel like I feel bad.
Okay.
I'm at work. I'm a relatively functional person, but I feel bad. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not trying to lessen it, but I'm trying to point out what's going on so that we can try to figure out a solution.
Okay.
And it's going to come back to parental leave. That's going to be the solution, but I'll explain why.
All right.
So okay. So it's minor mental illness, not major mental illness. Okay. What do you think is causing it? Just like what top of the dome, what would you think just like man on the street would say, oh, it's probably caused by
social media.
Social media. That's right.
Is that it?
Is it caused by social media? Okay, here's the problem. There is no mental health crisis anywhere else in the world. Only the United States has
They don't have social media anywhere else in the world.
No, that's the problem. There is social media everywhere.
Huh.
But there's only a mental health crisis in
Sounds
America.
Like blaming violence on video games.
There is a little bit of eating disorder problems that are like in France. There's like eating disorder problems and stuff.
Yeah, they eat snails and stuff.
But
it's like a crazy disorder.
You guys are disordered.
They're like, just give me those snails. Nom 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 nom.
Yeah.
You're like, what an eating disorder.
Yeah.
This place has.
You pull up your car to the fast food thing, and they're like, "What's your disorder?" And you're
Bonjour,
like,
would you like to eat a snail? And you're like, no.
You're like, this McDonald's is.
There is.
Yeah, they do have mental illness at those other countries, but America has a distinct spike in mental illness.
Yes.
In the past 10 years.
You said France has a lot of eating disorders.
Yeah, they just have they've trying to fight it. They try to do things to try to fight their eating disorders, but it's not more than it was in the past, or it certainly isn't more in the past 10 years. It may be more in the past, 30 or 40 years. But yeah, okay, so social media is everywhere. So what else do you think would cause mental health crisis in America? What do you think?
I mean,
technology is everywhere. Computers and cell phones are everywhere. So it's not technology. Stress, okay, but like
bald eagles? What else does America have?
Bald eagles. Yeah.
It's causing I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so some people would say it's our work culture, right?
Okay.
Because we have a really hardcore work culture, very few vacations, very, low pay for many people, very low pay.
Lots of stress. You're tied to your job with your health insurance a lot of times, and your whole life security is wrapped up in.
Yep. And you have a lot of like bills every day. You have to pay your insurance. You have to pay everything. Whereas in other countries, you have 6 weeks vacation minimum. Even if you're like a service worker, you get like a minimum wage and 6 weeks vacation and free healthcare. So you would think, oh, well, that's what's causing the mental health system is crisis. America has a crappy economic system, and the Europeans have like a fantastic economic system. Japanese, pretty much every other modern country, even developing countries have universal health. Thailand has universal health care. Even
preach it to the choir here, man.
Yeah. So people would say, oh, well, that's what must be causing the mental health crisis. Okay. The problem is that system has been in place for 50 years.
Okay.
Over like since the 70s, basically things have
so
been
we would
like
have
that.
seen this happen way earlier.
Yes.
So what is it?
Well, it might be
techno music.
Parental leave.
Oh.
It might be because that's one categorical difference between America and other countries. All other countries have parental leave.
But ours
only
hasn't
America
changed.
does not.
It's just other people have instituted parental leave in other places?
No, you're right. Ours hasn't changed, and theirs hasn't really changed ever since the 60s. European countries had the labor movement in 60s that our labor movement was cut off and killed.
Right.
Their labor movement continued. So by the 80s, they had secured all these benefits for workers. So what did change, though, is the number of women in the workforce.
Okay.
And when did it change? About 1980.
Yeah.
So if you look at the demographics, which I pulled all the data for this, you have in 1955, the number of women who after 1 year of giving birth were in the workforce was only about 30%. It's like really small.
Okay.
That stays about level and it just ticks up, but then it's like a sea change in the 70s and 80s. And by the end of the 80s, it's above 60%. It's like 70%. So it's like 2 to 3 times more.
I mean, I live my life through pop culture, and the 80s is when you get movies like Working Girl, where they're like, imagine what if she worked, or like Dolly Parton teaches me about working 9 to 5, or all these things where it's like the movie is just like, hey, what if the woman works? And it's like everyone's like, what? Yeah, it's like that's a thing in the 80s. That's right when that was ramping up. So that would change the distribution of men to women in the workforce. And then you're saying, since the new mothers is where that real gap comes in pay raise, or not new mothers, but just mothers in general, people who choose the mother track.
Right.
That's where that inserted itself into our
workforce.
Sure,
that's when it would have happened. Yeah. Oh. But the key thing is that was the 80s, right?
Right.
Okay. So then you have to be born in the 80s in order to have that.
To be born in the 80s.
Well, let me go back a little bit. So let me go back a little bit. This is a bit of a complex idea, so everyone needs to just hang on to their seats. So remember that we're talking about not major mental illness, like deadly mental illness, like schizophrenia. We're just talking about depression, mild to minor, mild to medium depression, anxiety, ADHD, teenage PTSD, and PTSD throughout your life, and then eating disorders. Those are minor eating disorders, not like deadly ones, just like, some weird complexities with eating.
Right.
Okay. And we're also talking about the 80s. Okay, rate of mothers with children under 3 working doubled from 1976, 34%, to 1997, 61%.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's talk about attachment theory.
Okay.
So
I think I see where you're
going. Have you heard of
attachment?
Yeah. So,
I have heard of attachment theory.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So do you want to tell people a little bit? Do you remember the kinds of attachment, the standard ones?
Isn't this the one where they were doing, this is like early childhood development, and they did an experiment where they gave monkeys like
people
what? No, there's one where they gave monkeys like a mannequin to hang out with that was covered with soft stuff, and they were like, nice, and they gave one that was just wire, and those monkeys turned out like mean without mothering,
or died.
Am
or
I
something.
not in the attachment theory
yes that's like the with monkeys. They also did experiments with humans, where they would define various sort of attachment styles.
Harder to justify raising a human child and giving it only like a coat hanger as a parent, and being like, why don't you act normal, child?
Put some googly eyes on that coat hanger. Yeah.
Yes, but they've checked it out with children too.
Right.
Yeah.
So attachment theory is like probably one of the most significant discoveries about science in the last 100 years, I think. And it keeps on showing up everywhere. So it was discovered in the 60s or was theorized in the 60s by this guy named Bowlby. And then Bowlby, people were very skeptical of it because it was it ran against common parenting ideas of stiff upper lip, the kid needs to kind of cry it out, or they need to be independent.
Right.
So I'm going to essentially neglect their emotional needs.
Well, they're you don't want to spoil them by being too...
Spare the rod, spoil the child.
They're if you're too much on them, then you'll make them into a weak adult they'll be bad, and you're oh, okay, I don't want to do that. I don't want to hug my child too much.
Exactly. So Bowlby was no, hug your child, take care of them, if they have needs, respond to their needs, and that will be better for their attachment, and which will make them better overall. So that was discovered in the 60s, and then there's been longitudinal studies done since then that have are very conclusive. Attachment theory is very strong. Bowlby actually was what he was studying he was English, and in England it was normal that if a child went to the hospital for anything, the doctor said, do not visit the child while they're in the hospital.
Isolate them away from everything that they know in a strange place. It's a little scary.
Yeah, they would say so. They had these weird idea it will interrupt their treatment if the parents are dawdling around, and the kid will want to leave, and he can't leave because he needs to be treated here in the hospital.
Nightmare fuel. You're filling hospitals with beds of little British children being like, "Mummy, mummy, where is my mummy?"
Exactly.
And they can't. Like, nobody's visiting them.
And,
oh my!
And
gosh.
Bowlby was like, I don't think this is a good idea. And everyone was like, shame, Bowlby is an idiot. You know, so insane.
Rip more children from their parents. Don't listen to that idiot.
Put them into locked wards in British hospitals. You know, can you imagine like
Oh my
1960, 1950, you know, British hospitals? Like
Probably
just,
awesome rooms.
Oh, super awesome.
Nothing at all like a prison. Cool.
Exactly. So anyways, that's where Bowlby got this idea. And then he started to actually try to back it up with like research. And then there's been other people who did stuff with like the monkeys and other stuff. Basically, people have shown that there's attachment is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you separate babies from mothers early on, they'll just die. Even if you give them food and what they need and keep them warm, they'll still die. Like they need attachment. They need like care.
Yeah. And like in the animal kingdom, humans take a remarkably long amount of time to become independent of their parent. Like, you know, horses are born and then they can like walk or whatever. Like a lot of animals are set to fend for themselves from a real way earlier age. Like, than humans.
You didn't just like immediately roll over when you were born and like fashion a shiv out of whatever was
I was born
nearby.
I was born holding nunchucks and I was like ready to go. I was like, here we are.
Whoa.
Ba-bam.
Out of my way.
Spin 'em.
Nurse Cratchit, out of my way. I'm coming through.
Watch out.
Oh, Ninja baby. That's like a code in the hospital. Ninja baby code. Oh no, another one has been born.
A ninja baby, the doctor goes in there to deliver it, and there's all of a sudden there's a poof of smoke, and the baby's gone. You turn around, you look behind you, and the baby's there. You're like, what happened? Like, baby's like, I delivered myself.
So basically, they define there's 4 types of attachment that generally emerge from different interactions people have, mainly with their mothers. Can also be with other caregivers and fathers. As long as someone is there being responsive to people's emotional needs, they'll get a better sense of attachment. One of them is just secure attachment. That's the preponderance of people in the United States. Majority even are securely attached.
Great.
Then there's avoidant attachment, which is
doesn't seem as good.
Not as good. It's also called insecure attachment.
Oh.
The type of insecure attachment, avoidant. So it's avoidant insecure, or insecure avoidant attachment. Okay. And then there's all the rest are insecure, right? There's only one way to be.
There's only one good one?
Yeah. And then all the rest are, more difficult.
I thought you were going to lay a super good one on me.
No,
like
there's no
extra
super good
attachment.
one.
Like, like this is really healthy.
No, there's avoidant. There's avoidant, ambivalent, which actually is the preponderance of people in Japan. Not the majority, but the largest slice of the pie is of.
They're just like, oh, a child.
Well, the children are like, whatever, mom's here, mom's there.
Oh,
I don't care. I don't care if mom's here or not. Like, whatever, I'm fine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's because the Japanese mothers are like right on the kid's side constantly, and so the kid just takes mom for granted and becomes ambivalent.
Okay.
And then avoidant. The preponderance of Germans are avoidant. Because Germans have a theory of parenting, which is like, oh, kids need to like be independent, like be tough, Actually, my
9.
Yeah, and then the other one is so insecure, avoidant, insecure, avoidant, ambivalent, anxious. So insecure, anxious attachment. So you're anxious about where's mom, what's going on, Okay, and then disorganized, which is like the worst.
Oof.
Disorganized is like you really don't feel like you can trust your mom because she like sometimes takes care of you, but sometimes doesn't. So sometimes you're avoidant, sometimes you're secure, sometimes you're. So it's all just like disorganized.
This would be Eminem is classically the.
Eminem is definitely a disorganized attachment. Yes.
Him and his mom.
Yes, exactly. Cool. Probably in the 80s. He was probably born in the 80s. I don't know if his mom worked, but
I think maybe.
So here's what we're getting back to. If you have, especially if you have insecure attachment, all minor mental health goes up. All of it. Men get ADHD, women get PTSD. That's generally gendered.
Okay.
Women and men, but predominantly women get more eating disorders if they have, and this all tracks with attachment style.
Right.
Securely attached people are not invincible to mental illness. They can have mental illness too, but it's a strong vaccination against minor mental health is to have secure attachment.
Okay.
And disorganized is the worst. And the amount of disorganized attachment people in the United States has only been trending up since the 80s.
So I think, yeah, I'm connecting the dots. You're saying this shift in the workforce happens in the 80s, but the mental health is like a lagging indicator that happens because of kids who start growing up in that process, but we don't see the effects until they've matured into larger humans.
Teenagers, adults. Yeah.
Okay, so that's that would explain then why that starts, when that starts, and what it is.
Yeah, and right now the mental health crisis in the United States only affects people 45 and below.
Okay.
55-year-olds look at us and are like, you guys are so weird with all your ADHD and all your OCD. This is what ex-gen people say. They're like, you guys are so weird because you always are claiming you have all this mental illness.
Yeah.
They just think we're lying.
Do you think we've fixed it and they're not going to have it? Or
no, I'm talking about older people. Older
Oh.
people were born, their mothers were before this change in the workforce.
Why don't you? Yeah.
And so their mothers were there in their house, being able to be emotionally responsive to them, right? There's also other things America has: hostile architecture and car centrism. Other countries don't have that, but there's. I don't think that's the explanation. But the main thing is the paternal maternal leave, and critically, another thing that happened was what's called Ferberization. Ferberization is
when we had too many Furbies.
Yeah, we had. They just took over.
Yeah, that was a big fad for a while, I think.
Yeah, there's just an ocean of
what is
Furbies.
Ferberization.
Ferberization is the cry it out method of sleep training.
Oh,
where you just let the kid cry.
Yeah, I don't like that.
That started in, guess the year,
1985.
85.
Oh my gosh,
1985. It was the first year that
Ferber goes, he watches Back to the Future, has a great time, listens to Huey Lewis, Michael J. Fox, everyone's flying around, going in time, and then he comes back and he goes, you know what? Kids need to cry more. What is this dude?
So in Denmark, Ferberizations, the cry it out method, is child abuse. You can have child services called on you if you do that method.
Sounds
of Ferberization. Yeah. And guess who doesn't have a mental health crisis? Denmark. Yeah. They're the happiest. They're one of the. They did there's this big research study on happiness, and Denmark was the happiest country. They did. Yeah. So, anyways, so cried out method, but especially the lack of maternal and paternal leave, is disrupting the ability for Americans. Not all Americans. Some Americans, are rich enough that mom or dad can stay home, or mom and dad have a work schedule that allows them to be around, or they have really good childcare where the child can get a strong attachment from a caregiver,
person.
Which is
that's
fine.
What I was gonna say,
someone has to just be responsive to your needs emotionally.
Okay.
And just that's all that's what the science shows. So it doesn't have to be mom and dad, but if you have no universal childcare and you have no parental leave and you have this incredibly grinding work schedule that a capitalism causes,
right,
you are going to create weakly attached, insecurely attached population. And on the edge of that weakly attached population, you're going to have a preponderance of minor mental health problems, ADHD in boys, PTSD in girls, and there's not, generally there can be both, but that's generally what happens. 9 out of 10 ADHD is boys, 9 out of 10 PTSD is girls. Doesn't mean there isn't the one who has it the other way.
So you're saying we fix the leave situation, the parental leave situation, and
childcare. Let's do them both,
and childcare as well. And then that creates a more attached population.
In 20 years, there won't be a mental health crisis anymore.
It fixes the mental health crisis that no one else has been able to fix by pouring tons of money.
We won't need Prozac. We don't need Prozac. Also, guess what? If you have an insecure attachment, therapy works worse on you. It doesn't work as well. So if you're just screwed, basically.
So the basic thing that we have to fix
doesn't work. Yeah,
ailing people doesn't work for the people who are ailing in this way. Okay.
So we have to look at root causes, and I didn't think this until like 3 weeks ago when I did all this data, when I pulled all this research.
Okay.
I thought it was probably technology. Like I thought, it's my cell phone. It's distracting me, and but everywhere has a cell phone.
Well, and mental health in the 80s, the thing that you always hear is like, Ronald Reagan closed a bunch of like health centers or changed something with the requirements for mental health, and basically put a bunch of people out on the streets who were institutionalized before that. And like that's
Right.
and he's like, that's the big change that happened starting in the 80s. And so
Right.
you hear about that as a mental health thing, but you never hear about
Yeah.
this, like the minor mental health thing that
Right.
perks up from some sort of a situation like a detached population in our country because we've shifted all the stuff.
Yeah. So there's some other stats about disorganized attachment. So approximately 15% of children in the general population have disorganized attachment, but in maltreated populations of children, it's 85%. So essentially, if you're a maltreated child, you develop disorganized attachment. And then disorganized attachment is the worst in terms of outcomes, in terms of mental illness and the ineffectiveness of therapy, et cetera, et cetera. The key thing for developing a secure attachment is I'm just like citing the research here. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but the research says maternal sensitivity. That is what in the research is the critical factor for developing secure attachment.
Okay.
So having a mother who is like aware of
Responsive.
your emotional
Yeah.
and physical state and responding to your emotional and physical state when you have needs or whatever.
You start to learn and internalize as a person, like,
that you're safe, that the world is,
it's not the end of the world every time something bad goes on.
Exactly.
And there's someone here to help.
And so then there's been multiple studies that have been shown that poverty also seriously hampers maternal sensitivity. So populations living in poverty, the mothers cannot, they aren't or cannot be as responsive to their children. And therefore, we're condemning people in poverty to mental illness, poor relationship outcomes, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, they have poverty is correlated to poor health, not just mental health, like poor physical. Like there's a lot of stuff that gets nailed because, like a lot of relationships have a lot of extra stress because what's the number one thing in relationships is like money stress, that's
it's a huge stress in the household. Also, if you're just working all the time, you come home, you're exhausted, the kid's crying and you're like, they just have to cry it out, right? I can't be responsive. Yeah, they're
Ferber told me
Ferberizing.
I can't go help that
They're going to
child.
start Ferberizing. Yeah.
We're not in Denmark, so I ain't get arrested.
There is some research that muddies the water in all of this, so it's not like total. I mean, I think there's a really strong case for all of this. There has been studies though that showed. Granted, the studies were done in 1984 when there was this cultural push to almost like a women's movement, like women can work all the time.
Sounds double.
And they said, and they found things like, employment status of the mother did not make any difference in the stability of attachment. But that was done in 1984. All the recent studies, also, that was only 59 people were studied in that study. That's not a large sample size. You need at least 200 or 500 to make it like believable.
I don't know what the numbers are, but you would think more than 50.
Yeah, I think this study that says this, I think this is BS, this study from 1984 from Owen and Esther Brooks and Chase Lansdale and Goldberg.
You're really taking these guys to task.
I read all the papers.
Bro, just roasting the 1984 researchers. They're listening at home. They didn't know they were going to take
They're definitely dead, I think. They're dead.
They're just like, whoa,
they were probably 50 years old when they did this study.
Whoa, dude, I thought I was good on that one. You nailed me.
But yeah, so maternal sensitivity and Ferberization. So I think today's solution is I think I've discovered the solution to the mental health crisis.
How much so what does this look like? Is this
we need a union of moms
to
come together and fight for maternity, paternity leave, universal childcare, and the end of poverty.
But what I'm saying, like I'm a boss. Now my workforce, somebody's gonna have a kid. What does this look like? Is this 6 months out? Do I lose my employee for 6 months or no matter what?
So the way maternity paternity leave works is it's a government program.
Okay.
So the employer doesn't pay a dime.
Right. I'm not.
The
I don't
government
have to pay
pays
their
the salary.
Yeah. But I do. I mean,
you
presumably,
lose them for 6 months.
Presumably, I've hired this person
you
because
can do
I
it
need
different
them
ways.
to do a job for me.
Some people say, like a lot of employment, they say, what's 6 months of employment? It's 20 days. It's 20 days a month. Or 19, whatever, 20 days a month for 6 months. So it's like 120 days.
Okay.
So a lot of people say, you can take 120 days off in the first year after your baby's born or something like that. So you could do it all at once. You could just stay home for 6 months, or you could do like half weeks. Employers should have some flexibility to allow people, maybe they let you take 120 days in the first 3 years, of your kids.
Is this?
whatever.
Are we saying 6 months per kid? Per parent per birth? Or
I mean, I think it should be a year per parent per birth. But I mean, I think this is I mean, all the other countries have done it, and they don't have a mental health crisis. So I mean, the proof is in the pudding. It's right there. We're gonna make it so that future generations of Americans aren't, a 20-30% of people aren't suffering from PTSD and OCD and anxiety and depression and blah 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 blah.
I was going to say, I always like to take our train to this station, but what would this look like in implementation? Is this a top-down, would this have to be, not an executive order, but would this have to be passed through Congress?
Yeah, it would have to be a program. I mean, this was in the Build Back Better bill.
Before it got...
And then the whole bill, well, this is the problem with the big Build Back Better bill. They tried to do an omnibus bill.
Right.
That's where they put everything into one bill. That was a big mistake because then everybody could pick one thing they didn't like and disagree with it. Instead, I think they should have picked they should have said this, and they told Democrats are such losers strategically, but they should have said Democrats are the party of children and families, and therefore we are passing the American Children and Families Protection Act, which provides universal childcare, universal maternal paternal leave, better gun control to prevent, shootings. They should have said, and then they should have said this is all about children. And anyone who came at them against it, say you're anti-child, you're anti-family, you're anti-parents, and it would have just destroyed it. Instead, they put all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, I believed in all of it, but they just put too much in one bill, and they didn't have a rhetorical strength anymore.
I wonder if our representatives were more representative of the age of the normal person, and they would be thinking more like parents or have people with parenting concern. We're doing this literally the day after Dianne Feinstein passed away at 90 while she was still serving as a senator, and it's maybe our representative class is too advanced in age right now. You need somebody more in touch with
gotta
the
leave.
needs of the
We already
normal
solved
American.
that problem, Scott.
That's true.
We already solved that problem.
Mandatory retirement age. I agree.
But I don't think it's necessarily old people. Old people love children and babies, and they know all about the difficulty of parenthood and stuff. I don't think it's necessarily age. I think it is just truly
out of touch.
From the Democrats. It's bad strategy. They're just bad at strategy. They just truly are. The Republicans are amazingly good at it.
Yeah.
The Republicans, the Republicans are actually doing what I'm suggesting the Democrats should have done. Right after the Build Back Better stuff, what did the Republicans come out with? We're protecting children from trans people, gay people, right? That actually, I mean, it's horrific and stupid and wrong and bad-headed and just totally wrong. But strategically, it's brilliant. Protecting children, right? And now, if someone says someone's against you, it's the unassailable reason that ends up getting conspiracy theories to storm pizza places and check their basements and everyone's like, whoa, what are we thinking? Back up, everyone. What? But if the Democrats, who actually are the party of children, right? They actually do, they pass the child tax credit, but then they also let the child tax credit end as well, doubling child poverty in America. Right. So, I mean, they're wishy-washy because they're these neoliberal capitalists. But if they gave up on the neoliberal capitalism because it's trash and instead focused entirely on supporting families and children and working people, then they would just destroy. They would just destroy at the ballot box. You're talking crazy now, Adam. Yeah, I know. I'm just getting crazy. But this is what if we want to solve these mental illness problems, I really don't think, because therapy, like I said, people with bad attachments, insecure attachment styles have worse outcomes from therapy. So it's that's not really a fix. We could medicate everybody with Prozac. I think we've tried that already. It clearly doesn't really work. These SSRIs aren't great. They're like a Band-Aid or a crutch. They don't really heal people. If we want to heal people, we have to go back and make sure the conditions of the first 3 years of life, everyone has maternal or some kind of responsivity from a caregiver. Yeah. And that's generally going to be the mom. But again, it shouldn't just be the mom. It should be equal maternity, paternity leave so that no one gets left. Holding the bag. And also, I mean, it's nice babies are pretty cool. It's nice to spend a lot of time with them when they're teeny tiny because
it's good for both ends.
Yeah,
you know?
that's why I think it should be
good for
a
the
year.
baby, but it's also great for the parent.
I think it should be a year per parent gets paid leave, and that's what we should start at least. I mean, really, we should probably start with 2 years or 16 months or something, so that we can
18 years
per
of baby
paid
per parent.
That's right.
You're not coming out
Germans
until that
get
child.
Germans
is
get
an
paid
adult.
leave, and they get like $300 a month per kid until the kid's like 8. So if you have like 4 kids, you get like $1,600 every month.
Okay,
Just because it's called Kindergeld, kid money,
Kid gold,
child money,
child
gold. Yeah, Kindergeld, not Kindergold.
I'm seeing here. It looks like it was a law invented by someone named Rumpelstiltskin. What's that about? Oh, weird. Huh? Child gold law. Strange. Okay.
Excellent. All right. Well, this is a long episode, but a complex topic. So
complex. It covers a lot of bases. So.
And I'm happy to have people disagree with me because there's a lot of moving pieces here, and I'm sure there's ways you can slice it. But yeah,
come out of the parent. Come out and talk about how much you think parents should be worse. Like, come on, come and disagree. Bring your
Well, they might want to disagree that it's
get all
not
those Ferberers
attachment.
out of here.
They might say no, it's social media, it's video games, it's poverty, and it is to some extent poverty because we showed the research showed that poverty hurts maternal sensitivity, which then hurts attachment, which then would cause all these things. But so it is poverty to some extent, but I think it's maternity, paternity leave. Yeah. Anyways, this is it. I think we solved it.
Cool.
Solution from the multiverse.
I love it. Well, before we get all the way out, I wanted to remind people that I'm doing a whole thing on YouTube now. So we are filming little episodes and they're coming out also at the same time as these episodes. So when a new audio one drops, go to the YouTube channel, which is YouTube/@Solutions from the Multiverse. I learned there's an ad in there, but we'll have it in the show notes. You can see what we're up to over there.
We're eating bugs.
Still trying to get us to play this game that we eat bugs every time. So yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you next time. Bye. I'm here to teach you how to cry.